With us now is Professor Yair Lempel with the Xolon Institute of Technology. Professor, how often do you think people will need to get a vaccine shot in their arm to protect against COVID-19?
We don't know yet, but I suppose it will be once in a year. Something like very, very similar to the influenza.
The thing with the flu vaccine, right? It's an actual dead virus. I mean, the flu changes and mutates every year.
Yeah.
You're putting an actual dead flu virus in your arm. This is the mRNA. It's not a real virus. So does that make it more difficult or easier?
I think it's make more unknown. And there's a great problem, but because, for example, when we are taking the AstraZeneca, when we are taking some others, the Russians, the Chinese vaccination, all of them, we can calculate it. Here we cannot calculate exactly. Now, the question is, I think another thing is, for example, the Pfizer is designed for transportation with minus 80 degrees, 70 to 90, minus 70 to minus 90 degrees. It is practical, unuseful for the next time. You cannot do it once in a year, the same thing. On the other side, of course, when we have a mutation and we want to make an vaccination after 2 or 3 months, it's impossible to make something like this.
You mentioned you believe a vaccine shot will have to happen every year.
I think so.
That's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. Why won't the immunity last longer?
There are 2 types of vaccination. For example, for the polio, we have for the more or less the whole life. When we take the measles, it's safe for the whole life. But there are something, especially for the virus, especially for these types, that are less consistent, and there are as well yearly. There are a lot of mutation for each of them.
The fact that there's so many mutations and that you may need to get a vaccine every year, really every few months, you may have to start booking an appointment for another shot. Does this indicate to you that this may not be a natural virus, that it may be something that was...
I know, and I can remember what was spoken at the beginning of the epidemic
leaked
in
from
China.
a lab. Leaked from a...
Yeah, that was a speech, and I know that some in England especially, they spoke very seriously about it, but we have no exactly information. It is very, let's say, ununderstandable. How is it now in China? Because now in China there is no epidemic. It's totally under control. We say that about 40 to 50% of the population are immune in China. We know also that in China, the epidemic was very concentrated in an area. We don't know about an pandemic in Shanghai, in Beijing, and so on.
The Wuhan province.
It's a Wuhan plus, not more. And it's raised questions.
Yeah. Professor, you mentioned, if Israelis or around the world, if you need to get a vaccine every year, that the Pfizer is going to be impractical. But Israel's focus right now, almost exclusively, is on Pfizer. Israel will have to change course?
I am too, let's say, too small to decide that something like this. I think that my opinion that for the younger population, for the older, we haven't the other way. We have to give it immediately.
As soon as you can, yes.
As soon as it. For the other, we can, because let's say, I'm not for the AstraZeneca, but for example, the AstraZeneca, now the Moderna, all of this, it's a question of weeks. It's not a question of half a year. It's a week, and I'm not sure that it is the right way, and we couldn't make a mix of part of the population and the other. A
really interesting analysis here and perspective. Professor Lempel with HIT. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us in the studio. Great to have you.
I thank you, and I wish everybody health.
Of course.